Are you guys ready for Faces of Death? In 1978, a movie came out that found its way into the realm of urban legend almost immediately. It showed what we believed at the time actual violent deaths caught on film. Now, throughout the early 80s, this movie was talked about in hushed tones. Copies were made, and it was passed around in circles amongst horror enthusiasts. It was snuck into sleepovers and watched by teens everywhere. This movie was a cult hit, and it was, mostly fake. Jason Emmett here with the Movie Mix, and today we're talking about the reboot of Faces of Death. Now let's start by discussing the OG movie for just a minute. Written and directed by John Allen Schwartz, kind of. Again, we were told the footage was real. It was presented as a documentary with a pathologist named Francis B. Gross. You can't make this stuff up. Well, I guess you can. Who would, introduce us to and explain what we were about to watch. So as it would turn out, none of the graphically violent deaths that were portrayed in the movie turned out to be real. Now, some of the footage was real. A lot of footage was purchased from news outlets, medical research teams, documentaries, etc., but again, none of the violent deaths that we saw on screen were. A lot of the movie was reactions, special effects, and just cool editing tricks. For example, the monkey brains, they used cauliflower and fake blood. For the electric chair scene, they actually just put toothpaste in his mouth. That helped him foam at the mouth a little bit. That isn't to say, again, that some of the footage wasn't real, because some of it was, but again, none of the violent human death was real, despite what you might have been told. This movie was made for like $450,000, and it made over $35 million, which in 1978 was a ton of money, especially for a movie made on such a small budget. It spurred a bunch of straight-to-video type sequels, and yes, those ones did use more real footage than the first film did, so if you hear those stories, they are somewhat true. Okay, so do we need a reboot of a film series that shows people being killed in real life? No, we really don't. Anybody who thinks we do need to see that is a little disturbed anyway, and no, we don't need to see people really dying. So how exactly is this new movie going to work? Well, it isn't exactly what you might be thinking. I mean, it's not going to be a reboot of people dying, for real, anyway. The film is written by Daniel Goldhaber and Isa Mezzi, who also gave us Blumhouse's Cam, and was directed by Goldhaber. Now, the plot is going to focus on a content moderator for an online video streaming site, sort of like YouTube, who stumbles upon a group of filmmakers who are reacting to deaths from the original film, and then they become entangled in a mystery as to whether these new murders are fake or real. The question is, with several ghosts in her own past, has she become so consumed by personal demons, or are the videos she believes to be real actually happening? Personally, I think this is an extremely interesting way to go at this. It offers a fun twist on the old urban legend, and could make for some really intense film. Thus far, we have just a few cast members. There's Barbie Ferreira from Euphoria, and Darcy Montgomery, who a lot of us know as Billy from Stranger Things. We have Josie Toda, who was recently on the reboot of Saved by the Bell. We have singer-songwriter Charlie XCX and Jermaine Fowler, who is someone I think deserves a little more attention, so I'm glad to see Jermaine showing up in this. Now, according to Ferreira, this movie, Faces of Death, exists in the universe, but we're obviously not recreating it frame for frame, because that would be like animal gore, which no one wants to see that. I mean, I agree. I don't want to see real animal gore. I like the fake stuff, but not the real stuff. But it's a contemporary take on it. I play a young woman who is a content moderator, and I start seeing some videos that are alarming, and then the story goes on. Faces of Death, I've seen it many times now in the movie and on YouTube. It's going to be really fun. It's an interesting way to go about it because it's not a remake per se, but it is a reimagining of it in the universe. It's super scary, and it's cool. It's a fresh take on horror movies right now. It's scary as hell, though. So technically, this was a low-budget movie. It was made for about $8 million. Actually began shooting back in April of 2023, and principal photography wrapped about a month later. So when is this one going to hit theaters? Yeah, I don't know. It's tough because we keep seeing movies like the Toxic Avenger remake that are out there but seem to be floating in limbo. This movie has been finished for months, but it would seem that similar to Toxie, it still has not found distribution. There was a screen testing of this movie, which by all accounts went really well. They said the acting is good, the effects are great, and it was shot on film, which they said helped the overall aesthetic of the film. Now, we're hearing it's a smart, intense thriller, which sounds great. My guess is we will end up seeing this film. It's just, we don't know when. I suspect someone will pick it up soon, and I wouldn't be surprised if October wasn't the season for the new Faces of Death to grace our big screen, or you never know, it could go to streaming services as so many do. I would love to see the same thing for the Toxic Avenger. I really want these films to be released, especially since somebody spent all the time, the effort, the energy to make these films. So do you guys like this idea? Will you be checking this one out when it gets released? Do me a favor, drop a comment, let me know. Then make sure you go over there and push that subscribe button real quick for me. I appreciate it a ton. Till next time, guys, stay awesome.